Okay, welcome back to part 3 of the back-to-back-to-back cap mini-series for the Project Tremblay. If you have no idea what any of that means, go and check up here or down in the description and find episodes 1 and 2 of this little 3-part series and get back up to speed. In this one, final prep before this cap goes on, and that involves getting these big storage boxes measured out, cut out, built in, and faired in, along with the huge storage box up on the front, and we start the fairing process because we are this close to getting that cap off of those sawhorses and onto this boat for good. So stay tuned, let's get to it. Now that this live well is on and not going anywhere, time to focus on some bulkheads. So this may not be final design. I'm literally just cutting out shapes with the razor knife and hot gluing them on here. But, so obviously this is where the live well is gonna sit. Before I pulled the top deck off, I got underneath there and I kind of put some masking tape where the splash well was. So I'm gonna give that a couple inches of room, you know, make sure there's plenty of clearance there so when that sits back on, won't be any issues. But these are huge storage boxes. I mean, these are 13 inches tall and you know, a solid 2 feet deep. And that's a lot of storage in a 17-foot boat. I mean, you're talking life jackets, batteries, tackle bags, anything you want. So, definitely want to keep that. Main bulkhead for the rear. As you can see, I set that back 3 inches. The cap itself is coming up to where this string is, where that, you know, line on the deck is. And that's gonna leave I think I'll be able to put like a battery switch right there and then mount the batteries right inside of here. So, you know, that'll be shaded, you know, 90% out of the elements. So that'll be good. Ease of rigging there. Big front bulkhead. This looks like a, I mean, this is a good amount of room. But remember what I said, I'm not putting a hatch on the top of this deck. And just gotta remember, this floor area, much smaller than the whole bow, you know, up to the top. So you should easily be able to reach in from the front, you know, reach your arm up to here at least, get anything you need out of there, whether it's just anchors or safety stuff, whatever up there. Plenty of room there. Then I still don't have to worry about anything on top of this deck, cluttering stuff up and snagging lines and catching grass. So again, same thing. That bulkhead I think is pretty fit. Get that glassed up and put in at least this rear one glassed up. And then I'll finalize the design I want to do here. You see my little kickouts there. Instead of going straight back to the transom, the reason I did that is because I realized if I do that, it's going to run right into the stern eyes. And I really want to be able to just, you know, reach inside this hatch, deal with all that. So anyways, sun's setting, I'm getting there. I think I'm gonna sleep on this for the night and we'll pick it back up tomorrow and see if that design sticks. Okay, it is not tomorrow. Truth be told, it's actually been probably 2 or 3 weeks. But life's gotten in the way, been busy, went on a little family vacation over the summer. It was very nice and relaxing. But we're back out here. This design did stick. Went ahead and glassed these up, glassed that front bulkhead as well. Didn't film that. You guys don't need to see me put glass on something. I've done it a million times. So, next step before we get this cap put on for good, some deck drains. A piece of 1.5 inch PVC, just went ahead and ripped it down to about a 1 inch. And I'm gonna come around here and show you what we got. All right, the plan for these, drilled some 1 inch, I don't remember exactly, but drilled some holes here. So any water that's on the deck can shed back here. Left them out, you know, about 3 inches from the side. And this pipe is gonna lay flat like this since I cut it. And I'm going to cut it this exact length here and glass it down to the floor. And then I drilled some holes through the transom. And this way, yeah, my shiny new paint job's all cut up. Same thing on that side, but this way I can glass this half a pipe down flat, and you know, any water off the deck is gonna shed right back through there, go right out. This is over 10 inches, 9 inches up from the bottom. There's no way this boat's drafting that much. So these should be well above the water line. If I do need to put a ping pong ball scupper on them, I can. That should just give it a free drain. Be able to open this hatch and, you know, monitor all that, but that'll all be sealed down. I'll put a couple layers of glass over top of that. So we're running out of things to do before the cap goes on. Made myself a little checklist over here, which is always a good idea. So clean up the underside of the cap, floor drains, and then let's see what else do I got. I'm gonna cut this piece of the floor out because that live well is about 1 inch too tall, and it's gonna, you know, set down in there, but all this is gonna be splash well area. So I'm gonna cut most of this flooring out so the live well can sit down in there and put a drain on that live well, get that all situated, get a through hull installed, install the pumps, you know, do all that stuff now while it's wide open and I'm not reaching through a couple pie plates to access it all. Clean up these hull sides a little bit more. I don't know if you paused and saw on my list there, but I'm gonna put some Coosa strips on here. I'll rip down, I got some scrap Coosa, I'm gonna rip down a 1 inch strip and glue it on all the way around so screws for the rubrail have something to bite into a little bit. And yeah, we're getting there, so hopefully we'll make some progress today. Okay, get me some putty mixed up so we can get this rear bulkhead tabbed in. Bulkhead's here. Went and pulled it out of the boat. Do have the boat marked where it's gonna go. The reason I had this bulkhead out, I'm gonna go ahead and put putty on it here, make it much easier than trying to force it up underneath. Of course, you wanna have this marked front and back. Got marks on the boat where it's going. You don't wanna be putting this thing in all different directions and not fitting and stuff like that there. Okay. Front and back. I also have lines drawn on the hull sides here with some magic markers so I can see where this goes. And there she goes. Okay, and then what you can do is turn this spreader over. Let's spread this out and kind of keep it a little cool. It's 100 degrees in here, but I might be able to use it for the next piece if I move quick enough. Anyways, turn this over. Just gonna round it off edge. Run it right down. Make your little fillet for your fiberglass to contour to. And then you'll see I've got some strips of glass here pre-cut to the size, so go ahead and wet on wet these. Ooh, sticky, sticky. Again, 106 degrees in the shop right now, so I'm kicking this about 1%, and it will kick off just fine. We also, yeah, if you're moving fast, this putty will kind of conform to how you need it. And yes, no issues doing this because this putty is mostly just resin and silica and chopped glass. So there's no problems fiberglassing over top of this bonding putty. And I'm moving fast now, trying to get this out of the cup because it's hot. And I'll go back and pretty it up a little bit in a second. And this is our rough finish product. These are some nice storage boxes. These really are big. I'm happy with these. And I know like you won't really see this kind of weird shape once the hatch lid's on it. You'll just open it and they'll just be, you know, storage. So anyways, let's see. Trim the tabbing glass off there. It was poking up a little bit, and I did make sure to add some limber holes that I glassed over. Not glassed over, I covered them with resin real good, sealed them up. Anyways, that way, when water gets in here, it can get out. This, of course, is where I was doing all my wetting out my glass strips, so it's a mess, but I'm not worried about that because this is all getting cut out. So that's going to be my bilge access. I do need to next put these drain tubes in. So I'll go ahead and cut them to the right length. Get the file sander, clean this up so nothing gets snagged on it. Clean these holes up. Also, I've got a couple coats of resin. Where is it? There, sorry. You see it glossing in there. I got a couple coats of resin on these drain holes where I drilled through. I also put a piece of tape on the outside so the resin didn't drip down on the paint. And I'm going to take that file sander and kind of divot this out just a little. So, you know, it's definitely sealed. The water can still drain out and not soak into the transom even though it's Coosa board. So anyways, yeah, getting there. My little list is getting pretty puny. You can see also I gotta clean these up, but I put some limber holes in the corners here. So if any water or anything, if there's a wet anchor up there or whatever, it can drain out. Getting there. All right, looks like this is gonna work good. Put these on the, not there. Put these on the chop saw and cut about a 12-degree angle on them to match the transom. They fit very snug, but perfectly right in there where I want. Touched them up with the sander. Yeah, you can fiberglass over PVC pipe, just sand it, and polyester resin will bond very well to it actually. Done that a handful of times. So that's there. So put a couple strips in there just to test fit them, and 2 strips. I mean, this is that's about 1.25 inch pipe, so I'm gonna have to cut a little bit more. Actually, I got some 3/4 over there. I'll cut a couple of those, putty all this in next to it once this is all glassed, and then just kind of, you know, put a fillet on this side too, and, you know, round the glass over. So I think now, to measure this out, I think it was almost 31 inches. Put a couple tabs of glass to lock this down, and then cut a few more strips of leftover foam. Putting that down in there, and then put a layer of glass over the whole thing. Also, it'll make a nice little shelf too. I mean, if I need to like mount a pump or something, you know, maybe it's got a mounting plate, it sits like this, maybe I could put it up, you know, off the bottom. I don't know, whatever. But I think it'll be better than having water stuck down in here. This little trough is just gonna be a magnet for water with no way out. And I didn't really wanna, the other thing I thought was just drill a hole in the side of it towards the back, just so any water could get out, but I think that'll just end up causing more trouble than it's worth, so. Anyways, yeah, that's next. That worked well. Nice big access there. Of course, most of that is to hold the live well that's going to sit just below the deck level. But the back half of it here, I'm going to have the splash well right here. I'll have access plates. So I want to be able to get in, get the bilge pumps, and go ahead and install a live well pump, do all that stuff, run some of the hoses and all for it now. Get that out of the way. And then get back over to these. So yeah, I went ahead and put 2 layers of glass on these tubes, letting that dry up a little bit more. This is nice. This came out. These are really good. And really all of this is nice and solid now. So once I clean all this up a little bit, gel coat in the inside of all this, this is going to be a quite nice little storage thing back here. I'm kind of pleased. All right, good shape here. Got some foam cut, fit down these sides. Same thing over here. Got about a 10-inch layer of glass. Overlap the side over the whole thing and onto the floor. Also cleaned it up a little bit with the sander. It's getting a little, I don't know, it's getting squiggy. It's starting to look pretty sloppy, and I knew once I got it kind of cleaned out a little bit, it's going to be much nicer. So, anyways, it's hot. I'm going to turn the fan back on. I'm going to mix up some loose putty, splash that in there, press these down real good, smooth it all out with the spreader, and then wet on wet this glass right over top of it, and then on to the next. Getting close. This turned out really nice. I'm glad I did that. I think that's gonna really, I don't know, it's gonna prevent some headaches in the future. I don't feel like, I don't want to be constantly dipping water out of there with a rag every time I wash the boat. But so anyways, that actually has a nice little slope. Working that putty while it was still wet worked perfectly like it normally does. It just kind of, it's right where you want it, and that's already getting hard. That one's solid. So same thing on this side. So that's going to call it for the night. A little rain coming in because it's summer. So, we'll button this up. Check back in. I don't know, hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully it's not 3 weeks until I get back out here like it was last time. But hey, that's life. All right, back out here, and it is the next day. We didn't have to wait 3 weeks between things, so that's always nice. Anyways, stuck a bow eye backing plate in there. Nothing, I don't know, to write home about. Just found some pieces of 3/4 inch Coosa, beveled them 45 degrees on the chop saw over there, and then took the 45-degree cutouts and stuck them on the back and the front so it just kind of fills, and slammed it in there with some putty. Letting that cure up the rest of the way just so I can sand it smooth, and then I'm gonna put a couple layers of glass over that. And I was looking at my list this morning that I keep adding things to. Do a little work on the hull sides. I gotta do some Coosa strips for the, putting some right here for the rubrail to bite into a little bit. And I gotta go buy some pumps. And then level these off, because if you do take a look at them, all right, this is a straight-ish edge, but if you, like, you can see where it's coming up. So these need to get cut down level. I'm gonna run a string across there. Since I don't have a laser level, I keep talking about buying one, maybe I just will. But anyways, get those level, Coosa strips, gel coat these, get them pretty, glass that. We'll throw a cap on. Let's go. All right, that worked. I'm not gonna say it worked perfect, but it worked. All right, couple tips. You'll see up on the bow here, you're gonna use these stronger clamps because there's obviously a lot more curvature. You're gonna use a couple for each one on some of them, like this one took 3 to get it really to bend around that curve. But this Coosa does bend, obviously. 2, you can only prep so much. Turn this off. You know, I've got a box of varying sizes, but obviously I didn't have one that short, so no big deal. Cut one. 3 of these stupid pieces of tape. Not the blue tape, but this Gorilla duct tape. Oh my God, that stuff sticks. I was literally pulling it apart, trying to get it off the inside of the hull. So if you need to tape anything to fiberglass, use the Gorilla brand duct tape, works really well. And yeah, had just enough, I mean, minus another short piece here, just enough to get me down that side before that putty started kicking, and kicked it did. It was getting clumpy towards the end. It was kicking fast. So let that cure off enough because obviously I need my clamps. Do the other side. To tell you the truth, I may just go in for the night because there's also about 19 mosquitoes. I don't know if you saw on the time lapse, but every time I look down, it's because I was swatting mosquitoes off my legs. So anyways, enough yapping. I'm gonna put this to bed for the night. It's pretty springy, so I don't want to take them off till they're fully cured. Risk, you know, breaking the putty loose while it's half cured. And I'll come out first thing early in the morning before the real job and do this other side. Go from there. All right, as I said, came out early this morning and did this side, so it's a little tacky, but dried up for the most part. Leave these clamps on for a few more hours. No rush to get them off. I want to make sure, like I said, these are pretty springy. So even though it's, you know, tacked over and kind of hard, if you take these clamps off, it'll still try to separate, and you know, with a little bit of tension pulling on it for, you know, an hour or whatever, it can eventually pop loose. So anyways, not hurting anything staying on there. Also put 3 layers of 1708 on that bow eye across that putty, sanded all that smooth. 3 layers overlapping, bigger each time. And then I put 1 layer on the bottom, 1 layer on the top, plus what overlapped on the top and bottom. So that is hard as a rock. Be able to swing this boat around in circles by it if you want to, which is the goal. Hopefully not. At least get it up on a trailer. And yeah, what's next? What's next? Get these hatches cleaned up the rest of the way once these clamps are done. The gel coat. I may have some bilge paint left. I think I'm going to use that in the back. So they're going to have more, you know, possibility for oil and whatever back there. Maybe on this one too. If not, some gel coat. But when I get them looking nice, when you open the hatches, it doesn't look like this. You know, 3 different colors. And getting close. About ready to put this cap on. All right, a little scatterbrained here, kind of going back and forth on my to-do list, but before I painted everything, I wanted to make sure everything was cut level, because these aren't perfectly level, and once I go to put the cap on it, I don't want them resting higher up on these and, you know, whatever. So there's obviously, I mean, you can see pretty clearly right here that this, you know, this part is sticking up definitely higher than it should be. So decided I'm just going to take a piece of string, run it back. Problem is, there's a notch in the transom. Solution for that, I kept the notch. So, like most things, keep everything I cut. So I can just set this here, and this will get me within, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch of where that saw blade was. I can set this right next to it, which then makes me a nice pretty straight line without having an expensive laser level, which I still want to go get. So now me and my Princess Band-Aid can get a pen, mark that, straight edge, draw a line, and then once that is cut down, I can do the same thing basically from that angle over there across these. I can run the string from here to here, cut out this one, and then this last little bit, probably just sand it down by eye or run a string from back here across, whatever it takes. Actually, just thinking I could run the string from here to here, make a line here, and then tie this line to that line, cut it. Anyways, we'll get it level because I want this cap to sit down flat across here. I don't want any humps and bumps. I want good contact straight across. So when I put my epoxy or whatever bonding stuff I use all around this, set this cap down, it's got contact everywhere. And we don't have any shakes and rattles and stuff breaking loose, and it's all one nice solid piece. Okay, these are cut flat, sanded, looking good. So this is ready to be painted, gel coated, whatever. Dug through my old bin, found the total bilge that I used on the actual bilge, but don't think that's getting used, so no knock on Total Boat. This is decent stuff. Never had problems with it, but once there's only about an inch left in the bottom of that can and it sits in a shop that's 100 plus degrees for a few months, it's gonna turn to crap. So I have gel coat in the fridge. Let me grab that. Okay, gel coat, just normal white FGCI gel coat, good stuff. This has been in the fridge, so this is just fine. I'm gonna do a coat over everything without wax. And then I do have some wax, I think it's in the fridge too. There's some styrene wax additive. I'm gonna do a final coat with the wax so it cures up nice and hard. So, just for the record, no, it was not in the fridge. It was in a box. You don't really wanna put this stuff in the fridge because it will turn to a solid mass. And then you gotta leave it sitting out in the sun or heat it up or whatever for however long it takes to turn back to a liquid. So, yeah, same thing. One coat, just regular. One coat with the sanding aid on the top, cure it all off. Shook this up real nice. Go ahead and mix up about a quart, a little less. And this is out of the fridge, so it's cold. So I'll go ahead and kick it around 2%, which 1 quart, 2%, 21.2 ounces. No, 21.2 cc's, not ounces. Do not put 20 ounces of MEK in there. That will be bad. Go ahead and stir this up for a couple more minutes because you want to make sure this is good mixed. And I'm gonna dump it in there, roll it on. Nothing worth filming. It's literally, if you can dump some gel coat in something and paint it, that's what it's gonna look like. So I'll check in. A couple big drippies to catch real quick. You can tell pretty easily with gel coat when it starts to kick, it's going to start clumping and picking itself up and making a mess. So also, yeah, this stuff stinks. I was on this side doing it all, standing upwind, so you can't really smell it, but when I come back here, you can definitely smell it. So put a respirator on if you like. Back this up. There we go. Yeah, that was the first coat, no wax. So I'll give this a half hour or so to cure, staying upwind. And then go back in, do the same thing on the bow, and go back in with a second coat full of wax. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my respirator on because when I start doing the second coat, I'm gonna have to smell it, and I'll check back in. All right, and that's what it looks like. It's like white gel coat, but good sized storage box up there still. Had a little left, so I did that side of that. Flip this off for a second. And yeah, I went pretty heavy on these. Of course, fly doesn't care. It's gonna land right on it. That's okay. This is no longer a vegan boat. So there we go. Not gonna obviously go all nuts and fair these out and, you know, finish them and get them all shiny or paint them like the outside of the hull. It's the inside of a storage box. So, but I think it looks fine. It's good, and it'll cure that resin up the rest of the way. So I'm gonna bump these fans back on because the respirator came off and I can smell this crap. And I'm gonna go inside, have some dinner, and let it get some air blowing through here at the sea breeze for an hour or two, and then close the doors up, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow. All right, I did one more thing after dinner. Came back out and just hit the hull sides and, you know, everything there, because I'm not gonna fair out these storage boxes or make them any prettier than they are. I mean, they're all, you know, smooth enough and good there for storage boxes, but I do want the cockpit to look a little nicer. So do a little gel coat on there just to make sure everything's totally cured, kind of make it a first pass of a fairing compound. So today, plan, I don't have a lot of time, but I'm gonna take half hour real quick, and I'm just gonna blast this whole thing with some 80 grit and get it roughly smooth. Any little bumpies, any little humps. I know there's a couple spots, especially around these. There's a couple spots that are sticking up. You know, I'm gonna get all that knocked down a little bit, and then I will go through and clean it all off, get all the wax off of it and whatever from that gel coat. And I'm gonna figure out what type of finish I want in here. And then I'll duplicate that to the top side of the cap once it's flipped back on. Hopefully this picks up well because it's raining a little bit. It's getting noisy in here, but do a little bit of pre-fairing. Just using some of the regular gel coat, little silica, and some sanding aid. Just mixing it up into like a Cool Whip consistency. And just gonna do a light skim on the bulkheads here, the hull sides, now that they are sanded off, and these seams here. I'll time lapse it, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to record much today because there's, like I said, it's raining now and there's a lot more coming, so it's gonna be noisy. But I'm gonna take advantage of the day, get some work done. So that's the process. You can definitely see, go from that to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish going around the boat, mix up another quart. Thunder is thundering out there. Hopefully this cures nice. With gel coat, you got to make sure and get it on the right thickness and catalyze it enough, especially when it's humid or it doesn't like to cure right. Should be good here. Let's go ahead and plug the camera in. Battery is pretty much dead, and finish this up and walk away for the day, because that's about all you can do. You got to let it cure up good and then come back and sand it. Sand fill, sand fill. Do it until you're happy with it. I mean, that's really the process from here. So you don't want to film this. Fairing is monotonous. It's boring, it's repetitive, but until you get the finish you want, that's really all you can do. Spread some filler on there, let it cure, sand it off, wipe it down, see if you missed anything, see if anything sticks out, put a little more in, let it cure, sand it off, do it again. You can go for a mirror finish and, you know, sand it down to 320 and check every little scratch and imperfection, or you can kind of leave it how it is and spray some gel coat and webbing on it and send it down the road. So that's pretty much the point I'm at right now. Trying to do that final decision. Do I want to spray gel coat on the inside, make it look nice, keep it a simple boat, make it easy to clean, easy to maintain? Or do I want to keep fairing until I die and then prime it, sand it some more, and throw some paint on the inside and make it just as shiny as the outside? But that is a decision for next week, because I think this is the perfect time to wrap this one up. And the next time you see me, that will be finally going back on here. So with that, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying along this far. If you made it to the end of this video, I do appreciate it. I appreciate every single one of you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to finally getting my workshop back. So that'll do for now. Talk soon, guys.